Well, I'm sure you noticed we have a little bit of a different seating arrangement up here today. And it always kind of bothered me that the presider's chair was not directed toward the altar or to the ambo. That the mysteries of our faith, I was the only person not focused on that. And it just didn't seem right. And it took me only 7 years to figure out the platform moves. And so we're going to give this a try and see how that works. But how important it is to realize Christ is the center of our lives. And that all of us, if we are to be one body, must be focused on Christ. That He is the one that our eyes are set on. He is the one that our hearts are aimed towards. He's the one that if we have Him in our vision, everything else makes sense. But the moment we turn away from Christ to focus on a lesser good, or upon a fear, or an anxiety, or a worry, or a trouble, then all of a sudden, we no longer have delight. We're no longer sure of where we're going, because our gaze has been fixed now upon something else. I'm so afraid of this thing happening, and that consumes me. I'm so worried about that thing, and that consumes me. But when we put those things in front of Christ and keep our gaze fixed on Him, He is able to heal. He is able to give peace and light even in the midst of those things. We see today in the Gospel passage that Jesus is making His way once again through pagan territory. And so He's not in Israel, here in the region of the Decapolis, where the Gentiles, very strong Gentile presence. And we just heard Jesus preach to His people about the cleanliness laws, the laws of purity. We heard those last week, and how that it is not from the outside that one is made unclean, but rather it's from the inside. But as we see Jesus today encounter this man, who very likely is a Gentile, someone who was brought to Him outside of the Jewish faith, we remember that it was forbidden for a Jew to touch a Gentile. They would be made unclean if they did that. And so what does Jesus do? He sticks His fingers in the man's ears. He takes His own saliva and touches the man's tongue. He makes physical contact with this man. He takes a hold of his head, perhaps, sticks his fingers in his ears to release whatever is keeping him from hearing. He lays His own fingers and saliva upon the man's tongue to let it loose so that he may proclaim the good news. But in that, He takes the man off by himself. This is for you and me. This is for you and me. And it's just He and the man. And in that intimate moment, in that personal relationship, there is healing. And the man is the only one that matters. What a love story. What a beautiful gift that Jesus gave to that man. That He loved him and cared for him enough to focus all of His attention on him and to give him the healing and the freedom that he so desired. That's what God comes to do for all of us. Yes, God, Jesus upon the cross saves the world. He saves all of us collectively, but individually as well. He saves each and every one of us. He wants to take us in that embrace. He wants to clasp the sides of your head, put your face eyeball to eyeball with Him, to look at you, to love you, to heal and forgive you. That's what He desires for us. And when we are gazing into the eyes of Christ, when we're looking at love face to face, what else can we see? Our fears diminish, our worries and anxieties are pushed back, because now we know what love is. We know who we are because we see it reflected in His eyes. This is the story that the prophet Isaiah speaks to his people who are terrified. They are there in Jerusalem under siege. There are nations outside the gates ready to defeat them, ready to take their people off into captivity. And they are just bemoaning the fact that they're going to lose everything. Their focus is on defeat. Their focus is on the enemy. Their focus is on fear. And Isaiah says to them, do not be afraid. God is with you. Do not be afraid though the enemy be this close. Do not be afraid. God will carry us through this. And even if we are defeated, and even if Jerusalem falls, and even if we are carried off into captivity, God will go with us. He will go with us into captivity. He will go with us in our defeat. He will remain with us in whatever happens, so don't be afraid. Take your focus off of those fears and put them on Christ. And that gives those people hope. And indeed, this time around, they will be spared. They will have God's strength. They will remember His presence. They will not succumb to those fears. But that becomes the challenge, I think, for all of us. Because there are enemies at our gates. There are temptations that are constantly clawing at us. There are anxieties and worries that we carry. There are fears that we harbor. What are you most afraid of? What are you most tempted by? Well, I guarantee if you focus on that fear, you're not focused on Christ. If you're focused on those worries and anxieties, you're not focused on Christ. And those things will get the better of you. And they will draw you away from Him. And then we become lost. And we become more fearful. And we get locked in a pattern of sin. And we keep repeating our failings. And getting out is difficult. We need to see Christ face to face. We need to know His love. Because there are so many things that want us to be away apart from Him. I don't know if you saw it, Friday night 2020 had a special that was the first time in the history of the church where the Holy Father held a virtual audience with 3 communities here in the United States. And David Muir from ABC News went over to the Vatican, had a sit-down meeting with the Holy Father, and had the television screens so that he could see the people in the United States, and they could see him, and they could talk to one another. And in each community, the people who came forward to speak to Pope Francis told of their hurts and their brokenness. They told stories of being bullied and being harassed. They told stories of struggle and poverty and of pain, of migration and the loss of their dreams. They told of stories of being a single mom trying to raise her kids. They told stories of these pain and brokenness. And what struck me is in each response, Pope Francis's refrain was almost the same. Have courage. Be courageous. Be courageous to do the right thing. Be courageous to persevere. Be courageous to keep going forward. And to know that if you try for goodness, God will bless that. God will bless that and magnify that if you just stop focusing on those other things that want to pull you down and focus instead on Him. Be courageous to do the right thing. It's hard to do that. It's hard to be courageous when we're afraid that, what if I do the moral thing? What if I do what I'm supposed to do? What's going to happen to me? Can I deal with the consequences? Am I afraid of how I'll be treated or how I'll be looked upon? Am I afraid of what's going to happen in my life? Are we courageous to do the right thing? We can't generate that courage on our own. That courage comes from the Holy Spirit. That courage comes by focusing on Christ. So I invite you to let Christ take a hold of your life. Come face to face to you. Do not be afraid to look Him in the eye, because He will give you the courage to do what is right, to continue to persevere. And even if you have to go through those trials and temptations or worries or anxieties, He will go with you. He will go with you. Have no fear, the prophet says. Your God is near to you. So no matter what happens, have courage. Don't focus on the temptation. Don't focus on the fear. Put those things in the light of Christ. Look at Him, and He will lead you through those other things to salvation.